Hey everybody, Yankee here. You know, one fact we all have to recognize in the gun world, one reality that you can't really dispute, is that revolvers are better than semi-autos for everyday carry. They just are. And there's multiple reasons for that. One, they're more powerful. Two, they make you look a lot cooler. And three, they're more reliable. That's probably the number one reason right there, that they're more reliable. Although looking cool is pretty important too. But revolvers just aren't plagued with a lot of the issues that affect semi-autos. The number one issue being magazine issues. Number two issue being limp-wristed by virgins. Revolvers don't suffer from either of those because one, they don't have magazines, and we all know virgins carry semi-autos, usually Glocks. So they don't suffer from those. But they are machines and they do sometimes fail. And during my live chat the other night, someone asked me, what is the most common reason that revolvers might fail? What's the mechanical issue you're most likely to experience with one? And after thinking about it a little bit, I answered that it's going to be timing issues. And after I answered that question, someone in my comment section asked me, what are timing issues? They didn't understand. And I'm like, oh, well, you know, a lot of people don't carry revolvers because they've been brainwashed into thinking that semi-autos are better. So I thought I would explain today what timing issues with revolvers actually are. What does that actually mean when a revolver's out of time? And I thought the best way I can demonstrate this here is with some illustrations. So let's take a look here. And no, I know what you're thinking. This is not a robot anus. This is actually the forcing cone of your revolver. It's the part of the barrel that sticks into the frame and kind of meets up with the face of the cylinder. And its job is to guide the bullet down the barrel. When your gun is in proper time, one of the chambers on the cylinder will align with that forcing cone every time you pull the trigger. It'll be perfectly aligned. And then every time you pull the trigger, that cylinder will advance a very specific amount of distance. It will turn a certain number of degrees, and then it will lock up and be perfectly aligned with that forcing cone again, so that when you fire it, the bullet is, like I said, guided into and down that barrel. When you start to have timing issues, when your gun is out of time, it means basically the same thing as when a watch gets out of time. When the mechanics inside the watch stop doing what they're supposed to do, they don't move the exact amount they're supposed to move, rotate the exact amount they're supposed to rotate, and the watch stops keeping time, it's out of time. That's what it means with a revolver. When the gun is not in proper time, when you pull the trigger, the cylinder doesn't rotate far enough. That cylinder is not aligning that chamber properly with the forcing cone. It's a little off. As you can see there, you can see the side of the forcing cone. And that causes some problems. When the gun is properly timed, the bullet has no issue entering the cone. The bullet easily enters the barrel and exits the barrel, no issues whatsoever. When it's a little out of center, when it's not aligned properly, well, even though the bullets are usually narrower at the end and it can still get into the barrel, it's going to have a little problem. Usually the most noticeable problem is it'll shave a little off the bullet as it's being forced into the barrel. You'll see debris splatter out the side, parts of the bullet jacket, lead, etc. And that can be dangerous. You can actually injure yourself or someone next to you with that. I actually have a little scar over my right eye where someone did that to me. They fired an out of time Iver Johnson revolver right next to my face and it splattered lead on me when I was a kid. So that can be dangerous. There's also other issues when you do that. Not only did it spray debris out the side, but now that bullet itself is deformed and it might not go down the barrel properly. It can really affect how that bullet travels down the barrel and how that bullet exits the barrel and make your gun a lot less accurate. And that's not something you want either. And if you ignore this issue and don't take care of it the first time you notice it, you can end up with a damaged forcing cone. It can crack, shatter even, bend, all kinds of damage can happen to it. And in that case, you're going to have to replace the barrel on that gun. And often replacing the barrel is just as expensive as buying a new gun. Sometimes it ain't that different. So you don't want to let that happen. When you have timing issues, you want to deal with them as soon as possible. Now, it is sometimes hard to tell if you have timing issues because if you're shooting your gun in double action, a lot of times the rotation of the cylinder itself will carry it further forward than it would be forced to go, and it will still lock up before it fires. But if you're shooting at single action, you'll notice it doesn't lock up before it actually fires, before you pull the trigger. So that's how you can tell more if it's actually out of time, is fire single action and see if it's locking up. Cock that hammer back, see if it locks up. But that's what being out of time means. It just means the cylinder's not turning far enough. Just like clockwork, it's not going as far as it needs to go every cycle. And that causes, like I said, bullets to shave off, damage to the forcing cone, could even cause a kaboom if you really let it go for a long time. Not very likely, because it would more likely get to where you weren't hitting the primer properly and it wasn't going off before it was bad enough to blow your gun up, but it can happen. So as I said, that's the number one issue that I think affects revolvers, besides user error and bad ammo. It's timing issues. So be aware of those issues. And if you're wondering what exactly causes those issues, like I mentioned earlier, or how to fix them, I already have a video on that I did years ago. But if you'd like me to do a new one with some illustrations like I did on this video, let me know. Be happy to do it. But like I said, that's the number one issue that revolvers seem to face, even though it's not very common. It's timing issues, and those are easy to notice, and they don't usually make it fail in the field unless, of course, you continue to ignore the problem and you don't fix it. They're more reliable. That which would be the autos that cause them to fail. It is a little short, usually. Bullets not lined up properly goes on down the barrel. It's out of there. Fits because there's not a big seal around it. There's all kinds of things. It goes out. The narrow part of the bullet kind of feels its way. The bullet guides the mouth of the barrel and goes out and